All right, welcome to today's live English Q&A. For anyone who is joining for the first time, Q&A means questions and answers. So you all get to ask me questions about English and I will do my best to answer them. Also, Saturday English Q&A because I always do this at the same time on Saturday. If you're not sure what time it is now, somehow, it is 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You might not be in Eastern Time, so just check what time is it now, and that is the time that we will do this every Saturday. Next thing. I'm a little bit out of breath because I just ran up and down the stairs to go get my laptop charger because I almost forgot it. Give me 1 second. The other thing is that every Tuesday we have lessons. So Saturday is the Q&A that we are doing today, but every Tuesday we have live lessons with a real topic. So this Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we have English for talking about shopping. So that is what we will talk about this Tuesday. Not today, but this Tuesday. So yeah, every Saturday we have Q&A. Every Tuesday we have a lesson. But there will not be a live on August 8th, August 10th, or August 15th because one, I am going somewhere for a wedding, and two, we have my wife's birthday. So we are going to miss the next three. So we have today, we have Tuesday, but then we have 3 days with no lives. So if you join every week, put these in your calendar. I will not be here on these days. I'm sorry. But after those days, we will continue as normal. I think the next one is the 17th. And the final thing that I want to say before we begin with the questions is you can now practice speaking with me on italki. If you don't know what italki is a platform that helps connect students with teachers. So I'm offering private speaking sessions for $55 an hour or $35 for a 30-minute session. And you can also get a discount by booking 5 instead of 1. So if anyone's interested, the link to find me on italki is in the description below this video. You can check that out when we are finished. Let's check the comments and see who is here. Okay. You told me what your name was, but now I forget. I need to go back and review a little bit to make sure I remember it for next time. Or if you want, you can tell me again right now. But greetings from Russia. Nice to see you on YouTube. It's an oven outside here. So it's an oven is another way of saying it's very hot. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for commenting and good to see you here again. Also, greetings always has an S on the end when we use it this way. We say greetings. Irena is here. Hi, Mike. I'm happy to see you again. Hello, Irena. I'm happy to see you here. Thank you for joining. Kevin Hawthorne from Lakeland, Florida. As always, good morning, Kevin. I hope you're doing well. Renata is here. She's got this little symbol next to her name, which means that she is a YouTube member, which means that she pays a little bit every month to help to support my channel. So Renata, thank you very much for that, and thank you for joining today. And Elena is here. Good evening, everyone. So for Elena, it is evening where she is. For me, it is morning. All right. Let's see who else is here. Hi, Teacher Mike. It's a pleasure to see you in this live. Hello, Mohammed. I'm happy to have you here. We've got Suat from Thailand says Sawadee Krap Crew Mike, which in Thai means hello, Teacher Mike. Hello, and thank you for joining. There's a box by my feet. I need to move it because it's annoying. Okay. Now we're better. And we've got, I don't know if it's Letitia or Leatisha, but hello, teacher. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. And so, yeah, so this is Q&A, which means that you all can ask me some questions about English, and I will do my best to answer as many as possible. So if you have questions, please go ahead and ask. In the meantime, I will continue reading some of the comments. I see we've got someone from, good evening, Mila from Ukraine. Okay, thank you, thank you. And hello, teacher. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. And I'll put the banner back up so everyone knows today is Q&A. So if you have any questions, please ask, and I will try to answer some. And remember, these can be any questions that you want. They can be about grammar, about vocabulary, about how to learn English, about any problems that you have with English, or just anything that you want to ask me. Please feel free. So how to use at the end and in the end. So what is the difference between these? Um, so I don't know how old you are, but I know that some of you know the band Linkin Park, and they have the song In the End. Which goes in the end, it didn't even matter or doesn't even matter. So that's the way to remember this is that in the end, it's usually just in the end, means everything is finished. But at the end, it usually has something after it. At the end of something. Let me double check to make sure that that's actually correct. Yeah, that is correct. So in the end basically means finally, or this is the result. But at the end, yes. So at the end is usually about a specific thing. At the end of the book, at the end of the movie, at the end of that street. So you're specifying what the thing is. But in the end is just totally, finally, this is the last thing that happened. And the same is true for in the beginning and at the beginning. Let me see if I can find a good example. Yeah, at the end of the movie, everyone clapped. In some cultures, people do that. In some cultures, people don't do that. But at the end of the movie, everyone clapped. We use at because we are specifying of the movie. In the end does not usually have anything after it. But yeah, that's the basic difference. Good question. What are your plans for Teacher Mike English on YouTube? Thank you, Guerma. So right now, my YouTube channel is not really making enough money for me to continue doing it, which is why I'm trying to do more things like more private lessons on italki, trying to get people to buy my ebooks, things like this. Um, but I mean, my plan is to try my best to get my YouTube channel to be more successful. That's part of why I'm doing these live lessons every week. It allows me to create more and more. When I do my normal videos that I record and edit, those take a lot of time. So I usually can't do more than one or two of those per week. But with the live lessons, I can just come here and talk to you, and that allows me to create more content in less time and spend more time really talking to you all, getting to know you all, and show you that I care. I'm not just a person who creates videos, but I actually do read your comments and I do care about you and I do want to help you. Um, so that's the plan is I'm trying different things. I'm trying the Q&A on Saturday, the live lesson on Tuesday. I tried making some of those driving videos. So I'm trying new things to see if I can get this to be successful so that I can continue doing it, because right now it is not very successful. Is it I came or I am coming? So if you are moving somewhere right now, you're on the way there. You are not there yet. You say, I'm coming. If you are talking about the past, that is, I came. I see a few people have just joined. Thank you. What is the difference between coming up and upcoming? Ah, okay, good question. So, um, coming up means that something is soon, something is next. Um, so, let me think of an example. His birthday is coming up soon. That means his birthday is in a few days. It's in a few weeks. Um, it's coming up. Upcoming is basically an adjective. You put it before a noun. It means the same thing, but you put it right before a noun. The upcoming TV series means the TV series that is coming up soon. It means the same thing, but upcoming, you put it right before the noun, the upcoming TV series. But yeah, you could also say the TV series is coming up. There, it's, I guess, a phrasal verb, whereas upcoming, it works like an adjective. Do I have any tips on how to master the third conditional? The third conditional specifically, not really, but for all conditionals, learn the basic rules. So, conditionals are a situation where I do recommend learning some of the grammar rules. I don't always recommend learning grammar rules, but conditionals can be confusing and lots of native speakers use them incorrectly. Um, First, the zero conditional and the first conditional, I think native speakers always use them correctly most of the time. But the second conditional and the third conditional, native speakers do mess these up sometimes. They don't always use them correctly. So this is a case where I do recommend spending some time learning the grammar rules. Um, so I have YouTube videos about the third conditional. I think we even did a live lesson about the third conditional in the past. So you can go back and watch that. I'm not 100% sure. It might have been about the second conditional. But anyway, you can find videos about the conditionals on YouTube. Find out when we use them, and what structures do we use. So in this part of the sentence, we use the subject and the verb. Over here, we use this and this. But don't just think to yourself, I need to remember this rule. I need to remember this rule. Don't do that. Learn the rule quickly and then practice writing lots of sentences. So the third conditional, let's say. Yeah, so the third conditional, okay, that is the one that's about the past. So for example, he would have passed the test if he had studied harder. That's an example of the third conditional. He would have passed the test if he had studied harder. So you write that down on a piece of paper and you look at what verb do we use, what auxiliary verb do we use, and then you write more sentences that are similar, but you use different subjects, you use different verbs, choose different topics. Using the same structure, using the third conditional, but about different things so that it's going into your brain many times. You're seeing it in many different examples, many different situations. And read the sentences out loud. You're never going to master something in speaking unless you practice speaking it. Just reading it and writing it and learning about it is not enough. If you want to be able to use it in speaking, you need to speak your sentences out loud while you read them. So if you really want to master the third conditional, figure out what the rules are, watch a YouTube video about it, then write 10 sentences with it. And every morning for several weeks, read all of those sentences out loud to yourself first thing in the morning. That's how you master anything really in English, is you write it down, lots of examples, practice speaking out loud, find opportunities to listen to it in real situations every day also. Good question. I always forget the words I learned. How can I memorize them? Same thing. Write them down. You should have anyone who has been learning English for more than 2 years should have at least maybe 100 or 200 flashcards by now, because every time you learn a new word, you should make a flashcard. Write the word on it every day. Look at it. Try to remember what it means. Say the word out loud. So these are Thai. But I guess I can use the English. So at most, at most, at most, at most. Okay, I feel pretty good with that one. Equal, 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 equal. Okay, feel pretty good with that one. Divorce, divorce, divorce. And you do this with the same words every day until you feel very comfortable with those words. But I also do have other videos as well about how to improve your vocabulary and how to memorize words. But the number one thing that you need to do is just review them, read them, speak them. Nuha is asking, what is the difference between neither and either? So either means this one or this one. Neither means not this one or this one. So either, if someone says, um, I'll have either one, that means you can give me that one or you can give me that one. Either one is fine. I'll take that one and I'll take that one. Good, good. Yeah, no problem. But if someone says, neither one looks good, that means that one doesn't look good and that one doesn't look good. Both of them look bad. Both of them are no. So basically, either means yes or yes, neither means no and no. And I think I do have a video about this on YouTube if you'd like a more detailed explanation as well. What's the difference between but and however? So they mean the same thing. The difference is basically just how we use them. Lots of people don't like to start sentences with but, and those people, when starting a sentence, will instead use however. So in formal writing, lots of people say, don't start a sentence with but they will start a sentence with however, even though they mean the same thing. So yeah, they mean the same thing. The difference is just how we use them in a sentence. And the biggest difference there is just that however is often considered more appropriate for the beginning of a sentence, while some people do not like to start sentences with but they mean the same thing. And I start sentences with but all the time. It's not actually like a real rule that you have to follow, but in formal writing, yeah, it is better to start with however. What's the difference between who and whom? So, the biggest difference is that most native speakers do not usually use whom. We usually just use who all the time. Technically, there is a difference. I'm going to open something to see if I can find some good examples quickly. But basically, who describes the person who does the action. So, who called you? Who called you means somebody called someone. I want to know the person who did the calling, the person who called. Who? But whom is about the object, the person that receives the action. And I'm going to check for an example because I always feel wrong when I use it because it really doesn't feel natural to me. Yeah, so like a whom did you call? Who called you is about the person calling. Whom did you call is about the person receiving the call. And that's basically it, is that whom is about an object, who, no M, is about the subject, the person doing the action. But most native speakers do not use whom very often. It sounds formal. So if you are in a formal situation or if you're doing academic writing, yeah, use whom. But understand that most native speakers just use who all the time. And this is another one that I do have a video about already, and my explanation in that video is probably better than the explanation I gave you right now because I planned it carefully. So I recommend watching that video after this live lesson. Good question. I hope it's not a personal question. It's not too personal. It's fun. How do you celebrate birthdays in your culture? It depends on the person, but generally, um, you give someone a cake with candles. They make a wish. No, you give them a cake with candles. You sing happy birthday. When the song is finished, they make a wish and they blow out the candles. That's the main thing, and you give people presents. Um, Besides that, it depends on the person. Maybe they don't really do anything. Maybe they go out to dinner. Maybe they go hiking. Maybe they go to volunteer somewhere. It just depends on the person. Today, if someone asks me, "Did you eat breakfast?" What can I say? I have eaten breakfast or I ate breakfast. So, this is a topic that's a little bit complicated. So, I'm going to give you an answer, but I also already have multiple videos about this on my YouTube channel. So, after this video, I also recommend searching "Did you eat?" on my YouTube channel, and you will find some videos about this. Um, but so usually, most people use "did you" for something that is 100% in the past. It's finished, it's not important anymore. "Have you" is for something that is more now. Um, maybe if it didn't happen, there still is time for it to happen. It might happen. It didn't happen in the past, but it might happen now. It might happen soon. So if it's 10 a.m., you can ask, "Have you eaten breakfast?" Because breakfast time is still continuing right now. But if it's 2 p.m., 2 p.m. is in the afternoon. And if you eat in the afternoon, that's not really going to be breakfast. That's probably lunch. So if it's 2 p.m. and breakfast time is finished, it can't happen anymore. That time is all the way in the past. We would use "did you." Did you eat breakfast this morning? But if it's still the morning right now, you can ask, "Have you eaten breakfast yet?" If not, I'll make some for you because we have time to eat. Um, but if someone asks you, "Did you?" The answer is usually going to be, "Yes, I did. No, I didn't." Um, if someone asks, "Have you eaten breakfast?" then the answer would be, "Yes, I have. No, I haven't." Um, or whatever you want to say, really. But if someone asks, "Did you?" according to the grammar, "Yes, I did. No, I didn't." "Have you?" "Yes, I have. No, I haven't." Good question. Okay, so this is something that people ask about a lot. Um, Thank you. First of all, thank you. Um, could you help us giving some tips about how to learn and remember phrasal verbs and their uses? Um, so lots of people think that phrasal verbs are some special, really difficult thing, and they're not. They're the same as words. When you hear something or you see something and you don't understand what it means, look it up. Find it in a dictionary, find it online, read the meaning, read some examples, try to understand it. Then write it down. Then make your flashcards. And again, review the flashcards every day. And one thing you can do, especially if you want to be able to use the phrasal verb in a sentence, is don't just write the phrasal verb on the flashcard, write a full sentence that uses the phrasal verb. Um, for example, so I have one for practicing Thai from a long time ago. It says คุณทำยังเขาได้ไหม which means can you do it like him? So you don't just write a word on a flashcard, but you can also write full sentences. So for example, the phrasal verb come up, like to come up with an idea, to create a new idea. You could write that on a phrasal verb, but write a full sentence. For example, a very common question that we use with come up is, did you come up with anything? Means, did you get any new ideas? So write that sentence on the flashcard. Did you come up with anything? Then put it with all your other flashcards that you review every day, because you review them every day at the same time, maybe on your lunch break, maybe for 5 minutes when you get in your car before driving home from work, maybe after eating breakfast, maybe when you get out of the shower, something like this. There should be a 5 to 10 minute period every day where you review your flashcards at the same time. Maybe it's 5 minutes before going to bed. Put them next to your bed so that you never forget to do it. Put them on the table in your living room so that every time you sit down to watch TV, first you review your flashcards for 5 minutes. But take the phrasal verbs, put them on the flashcards, and read them to yourself every day. And don't just read the phrasal verb, but read a sentence that uses the phrasal verb. So you might have one flashcard that says, what did you come up with? You might have one that says, did you come up with anything? You might have one that says, I couldn't come up with anything. And you practice reading them out loud every day. That is how you remember vocabulary. And phrasal verbs are just vocabulary. They're not anything special. It's the same as remembering dog, cat, blue, pizza. Phrasal verbs are exactly the same. They're not something really special. They're not something really difficult. Good question. What is the difference between possibly and possible? The difference is just that possibly is an adverb and possible is an adjective. So possibly, let's think of an example. Let me just search for an example so I don't spend a long time thinking. Yeah, there are multiple ways that we use possibly, though. But basically, possible is an adjective. So we say things like, that's possible. Is it possible? So it's describing the noun, that, it. It is possible. It's not possible. Is this plan possible? Possibly, so possibly is an adverb. And basically, the way we use it in a sentence is different because it doesn't modify a noun, it modifies a verb. So, for example, we could possibly go at 5 o'clock. We could possibly have dinner at that restaurant. So you're using it with a verb. Um, but we also use it in short answers sometimes. So if someone says, "Hey, do you think you could do that?" You could reply, possibly." Possibly basically means I think that doing that is possible, but it's a shorter way of saying it. And this is one where, again, I recommend looking up example sentences on the internet. Find some example sentences and write them down so that you can compare them. Ooh, I see. Possibly looks like it usually goes here with a verb. Possible usually goes here with verb to be. You don't need to remember all the rules, but you just want to look at lots and lots of sentences that use them, because when you see something used many, many, many times, you'll usually understand how to use it, even if you can't explain the grammar. What is the meaning of sensible? Um, Sensible is very similar to reasonable, um, appropriate, a smart thing to do, not not a stupid thing to do, not a reckless thing to do, not a bad thing to do. It's something that you do if you used your mind a little bit. Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's a good idea. That's pretty sensible. It's not a bad idea. Yeah, I think that a smart person would do that. That's not a bad thing to do. Let me find an example sentence for you. Yeah, bringing an umbrella was a sensible idea because it looked like it was going to rain. Her father gave her sensible advice about saving money. Yeah, sensible. How to find native speakers to practice with. Um, so the main thing that you need to do is you need to remember that you need to practice. Native speakers do not need to practice because they already speak English. So if you want to practice with native speakers, don't make them feel like it's a practice situation. Instead, find a reason for them to talk to you. What can you help them with? Find people who want advice about your country. Go on Reddit or something and find native speakers who are asking about your country and say, "Hey, do you want to do a Zoom call for 30 minutes? I would like to share some information about my country with you. I'm happy to help you." Um, and if they might think, "Oh, that's kind of weird. Why does this person want to call me?" And you can say, "Oh, don't worry. I just want to practice my English, and I think a good way for me to practice my English is by sharing some information with you." But you need to remember that they don't need to practice. So you don't want to find native English speakers and say, "Hey, let's practice English." It needs to be, "I'm going to help you with something. This is what I can help you with." So find out what information that do you have that's valuable and find an opportunity to give it to them. Um, Another thing is just go somewhere where there are native speakers. Like go to a museum, go to a tourist place, go to an airport, and just walk around and try to find people who you think might speak English and try to talk to them. Um, Another thing, again, I just started giving lessons on italki. So if you'd like to practice with me, the link to italki is in the comments below. Sorry, it's not in the comments, it's in the description beneath this video. Um, Again, I am now offering speaking sessions for $55 an hour or $35 for half an hour. But if that is too much for any of you, there are also other teachers on italki who have different rates. Um, and I'm not sponsored by italki. I'm not saying this because I love italki or anything like that. It's just the platform that I use to connect with students because it's easy for the teachers and it's easy for the students. And the students can find teachers with lots of different prices there. Mine are a bit more expensive than some of the other teachers because I have more teaching experience than many of them, and I have greater demand for my lessons than many of them do. Um, but yeah, there are lots of teachers who are much cheaper than me there if you cannot afford my lessons. The other thing to remember is that you don't need to practice with native speakers. Listening to native speakers is important, but you can do that with TV. You can do that with YouTube. You can do that with the radio. You can do that with movies. You don't need real humans for your listening practice. Um, so when you're speaking, it doesn't need to be a native speaker. The person you're speaking to can be anyone who has a similar or slightly higher or slightly lower level of English than you have, because you're not learning from that person, you're practicing with that person. And when you practice with someone, they don't have to be a lot better than you. In fact, it will probably be more difficult if they are a lot better than you. Like, you don't want to practice playing football with Messi. You want to practice playing football with someone who has similar skills to you. So remember, your speaking partner does not need to be a native speaker. And you know lots of other people who are learning English who would be happy to practice with you, but you haven't asked them to practice with you. So if you work somewhere, ask everyone you know at work, hey, would you like to practice speaking English with me once per week, twice per week? Ask all of your family members, everyone who you have in your phone, would you like to practice speaking with me once or twice or 3 times per week? Someone will say yes if you actually ask everybody. Another option, go to a park and hold a sign that says, practice speaking English with me, because there are other people just like you who want to practice speaking English. And if you sit in a park for 5 hours and hold a sign that says, practice speaking English with me, I guarantee that at least one person will stop and practice with you. Good question. Who did called you? The first one is not correct. The first one is not correct. It should be who called you. The second one is correct. What is the difference between historic and historical? So, historical with the AL, historical is about history. It's about something from the past, something from history. Historic just means very big, very important. This is the first time that this has happened. This is such an amazing event. So, historic basically means amazing. Historical means from history. Let me find some example sentences for you. I'm searching for example sentences because if I think for example sentences, sometimes I spend too long trying to find one that's perfect and I just waste time. So historic. Um, She gave a she gave a historic speech. Means that speech was very important, very special. It will probably be remembered in history as being very amazing. Or The court made a historic decision last week. The court made a decision that's very big, very important, very wow, that happened. It's historic. Um, let's find some examples with historical. Um, okay, so historical is often used before a noun. For example, he did historical research. Means he researched history. Um, this is a historical site. Something happened here in the past in history. So yeah, historic basically means amazing, special, big, wow. Historical usually comes before a noun to show that that thing is from the past. Ava, I'm glad to see that you were able to join. You said that you might not be, but I'm glad you are here. What is the difference between affect and effect? Um, affect is a verb. The one with the A is a verb. So, does this affect us? This is not going to affect anything. Effect with an E is the noun. For example, Star Wars is a movie with special effects. Or what are some of the side effects of this medicine? That's a way that I would remember that effect with an E is the noun, is it's usually with something. Side effect, special effect. Um, so what are the effects? If we used affect with an A, it would be how will this affect us? But basically, yeah, affect with an A is the verb, effect with an E is the noun. I do have a longer video about this on YouTube that might help you, so I recommend searching for that one later. What does trembling mean? Trembling basically means like shaking a little bit. Not like that, but more like usually because you are scared. Um, she was trembling with fear. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I'm shaking. It could also be because you're cold or something, but I think we usually think about fear when we hear this word. Because if you're doing this because it's cold, that is usually called shivering when it's cold. Trembling is usually about fear. Isga, thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Are grammar rules important for learning a language quickly or not? Interesting question. And it also depends what do you think is quickly? Because when I hear learn a language quickly, I'm worried that you think that you can learn a language in 4 months because most people are not going to learn a language that quickly. To me, quickly means 3 years, maybe 2 years, 3 years. So that's the first thing is I don't want you to think that you're going to learn a language in 3, 4, 5 months. Most people are not, unless you have tons and tons of time and a teacher and classes and people to speak with for hours every day. If you have a teacher and you have people who you can practice speaking with for hours every day, yes, you can learn a language in less than a year. But most people are not going to do that because they don't have the resources or the opportunities to do that. Um, so let's just go to grammar rules. Is it important to learn grammar rules? Um, no, it's not. You don't need to know grammar rules. However, many people will find it useful. You just need to think about, I learned this rule. I learned this rule. But does that actually help me? Do I feel like using this rule has helped me to communicate? Or has it just made me communicate slower? Because now, when I need to use the grammar, I think about the rule in my head every time. So it's important to understand who you are, how you learn, and how you speak. Because if you are someone who can learn a rule and then not think about it during conversation, then I recommend learning the rules. But if you are someone who is going to learn a rule and then every time you have a conversation, you think about that rule and you stop and you freeze and you're thinking about all these rules in your head, then I don't want you to learn rules because rules are not helping you. Rules are slowing you down. Rules are making you less fluent. But again, if you are someone who can learn a rule and use it when you're studying, use it when you're practicing, but then not let it affect you when you are in a real situation, then maybe you should learn rules. You can help with your native language and the other person helps you with English. I do it. Good. Yeah. So this is another common way that people find native speakers to practice with. This is often called a language exchange. So you find a native English speaker and you say, "Hey, I'll teach you some of my language if you teach me some English." The only problem here is that you have to find people who are interested in your language. And that person is probably not a teacher. So often, when people go into these language exchanges, they expect the other person to be able to explain things really well, but often that person can't because they're not a teacher. They don't have that experience. But this is still a good thing to do. The reason I'm talking about them not being a teacher is that the thing that I think is really useful about language exchanges is if each person comes with a list of sentences and they say, "Hey, I want to say this, I want to say this, I want to say this. Can you tell me if these sentences are natural?" So that's another thing that I would do if I did a language exchange is don't expect the other person to be a teacher, but do take advantage of the fact that they are a native speaker and they can tell you, yes, that sounds natural. No, that doesn't sound natural, even though they might not be able to explain why because they're not a teacher. But yeah, thank you. That is another good thing that you can do. And I'll do a one or two more questions. So Guerma is asking. I know that's not actually how you pronounce her name. But she told me that she likes the way I pronounce it, so I shouldn't start pronouncing it correctly. I should continue saying Guerma. Guerma is asking, on which skill should a learner focus to improve faster? Um, the thing that you focus on the most is the thing that you are going to improve the most. Um, so, what are you trying to improve? If you're trying to improve your speaking, focus more on speaking. If you want to improve your listening faster, spend more time listening. Um, but I don't like the idea of like separating everything. This is speaking practice, this is listening practice. Um, I think that yes, sometimes you should separate them, but you should still be doing all of them every day. Like, it's okay to have speaking practice time and listening practice time, but I don't think you should say, I'm only going to do speaking practice and I'm never going to do listening practice. Everything should be about equal. Um, the only thing that I don't think is so important is writing. For most of you, um, writing is the thing that I would recommend spending the least time practicing, because writing is not like a high pressure situation. Normally, when you're writing, you have some time to think about how you're going to write it. You're sending an email, you can take 10 minutes, you can take 20 minutes. But when you're speaking and listening in real situations, those are the high pressure situations where you really need to have the skills ready to use right now. And that's why I recommend spending more time practicing listening and speaking than I do reading and writing. Um, so I guess if you want to improve your speaking faster, I would spend honestly, I would spend less time reading and more time speaking. Um, but yeah, in general though, I would just continue doing everything as much as possible. And to speed it up, do everything more. I don't recommend stopping reading. I don't recommend stopping writing. But if you do want to start improving your speaking a lot faster and you have limited time, then yeah, maybe take out some of the time that you usually spend reading and writing and commit that time to speaking. But remember that one great way to practice speaking is using books. So, for example, when you read a book, you can use your book to practice speaking. Um, you are right, Count, he said. This must be one of your friends. Then, going up to Albert, he touched him on the shoulder, saying, Will your excellency please to awaken? So that's practicing speaking. That's a good thing to do. Um, so that's again, you don't need to remove your reading to have more time speaking, because you can also use your reading for speaking practice. Um, so to answer the question, I don't really have a good answer that's going to work for everyone. You should really just keep improving everything. Decide what your goals are. If there is one specific thing that you want to improve faster, spend more time on that thing. But I can't tell you which thing that should be. Sorry if that was kind of a confusing answer. The difference between American English and British English is enormous. Which one is more difficult? So, the difference between American English and British English is not enormous. They are 99% the same. Almost every word in British English and American English is the same. There are a few spelling differences. There are a few things where we have different slang or even sometimes different standard words, but overall, almost everything is exactly the same. Um, when I talk to British people, we understand each other. It's the same language. It's just slightly different. It's not an enormous difference. Um, which one is more difficult? The one that's more difficult is the one that you have spent less time listening to. That's it. Um, there's nothing that makes American English more difficult than British English. There's nothing that makes British English more difficult than American English. Actually, there is something. American English, I think, is easier to learn. It doesn't mean that the language is easier. It's just that you have more American English. There is more American English out there in the world because of Hollywood, TV shows, the internet, international communication in English. Almost all of these things use American English. So, American English, the grammar's not easier, the vocabulary isn't easier, the language is not easier, but it's a little bit easier to learn because you have more opportunities to listen to it, more opportunities to read it, and there are a lot more Americans than there are British people in the world. So, you're more likely to meet an American person and have opportunities to speak with them. But yeah, the languages are basically the same. Good question. Going to answer one more question. I know we've got a few, but I'm just going to choose one. There are a few questions that I don't understand. Um, um, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to choose a question from the same person because this is similar to what I was just talking about a moment ago. Are there many expressions in American English that British people don't understand? And are there many British expressions that American people don't understand? Um, yes and no. So I told you that the languages are 99% the same. But yeah, there are some expressions that are different. That is part of the 1% that is different. Um, however, it's not a big problem because when a British person says something and I don't understand it, I tell them that I don't understand it and they explain it to me. When I say something and they don't understand it, they say, "Hey, I don't know what that means. Could you please explain it to me?" And I explain it to them. So people always worry, like, oh, but if I learn British English, American people won't understand me. If I learn American English, British people won't understand. With everything, they just need to ask. And when you don't understand someone, you just need to ask. That's normal. That's part of human communication. Um, there are things that my mom says sometimes that I don't understand. There are things that I say to my mom sometimes and she doesn't understand. So we just ask, what does that mean? I've never heard that before. Um, however, if we go back again, there is more American English out there in the international world. Um, so, British people often know a lot of American slang, a lot of American expressions because Hollywood is American. British people watch lots of American movies. American people, on the other hand, do not watch a lot of British movies because they're not generally so famous, so popular. Um, so there is a small difference here that British people tend to know a bit more American English, while American people tend to know a bit less British English. Just because American English is really all over the world, all over the TV, all over the internet, and British English is not so much. Fine, I'll do like two more questions. I'll do short questions. I often hear Americans saying, "I'm doing good, why not doing well?" Just good. Good is a more normal feeling word. Well often sounds a bit formal. Um, and I think it's also because we have the expression "I'm well" and "I'm unwell." I'm well means I'm healthy. I'm unwell means I'm sick. Um, I don't know if that's really it. I think it's just that people don't have great grammar. Um, so instead of uh, I'm doing, should doing have a verb or an adverb? Oh, sorry, an adjective or an adverb. Ooh, the adjective is good, the adverb is well. No, people don't think like that. They just say what feels natural to them. And for many people, I'm doing good feels more natural than I'm doing well. And because they've heard other people saying it before, they continue to say it that way. And because so many people say it that way, no one notices, and most people don't really think it's wrong. It's a very, very normal thing to say. Um, Technically, yes, according to the grammar, it should probably be I'm doing well. Um, but really, the meaning though is really like how you feel. And good is the feeling. Well is not really a feeling. So that's probably another part of it is that we're thinking about, I feel good, I feel positive, I feel happy. And in that case, good makes sense. Well is a little bit weird because well is often about a level of skill. He speaks English well. Um, she runs very well. He cooks well. So that's another part of why well sometimes doesn't feel so natural to us is because it's not a feeling. Whereas good is positive. It's a feeling about like emotions and stuff. And the last question that I am going to answer, how many native speakers break grammar rules? What are the elements of the language that might be not ideal? So I'm just going to answer the first part of the question about breaking grammar rules. Um, so most of the time, people don't choose to break grammar rules. Um, Most of the time, there are things that are very, very common. Lots of people say them that way, especially in some dialects. So there might be a dialect where something that you learned is wrong is actually not wrong in this dialect. So that's a big part of this is that some native speakers are speaking dialects that are different from standard English. And those people are not breaking rules, they are just following different rules. Um, but we don't make mistakes like not using future tense and using past tense instead of future tense. We don't make mistakes like that. We do very small things, usually because of our dialect. Um, However, with more complicated things, people do sometimes use them incorrectly. So, like the third conditional, the second conditional, past perfect tense, these are very kind of complex grammar points. And unless you are an author, most native speakers don't actually know them 100%, and that's fine because you don't need to know them 100% to use them to communicate. Um, so like trying to think of an example. Um, I know when I watch TV all the time, people say things and they're native English speakers. And I say, "Oh, he said that wrong. Oh, she said that wrong." But it's always things that I have heard incorrectly 1,000 times before. Most native speakers do not make a different mistake. They make the mistake that everybody makes because so many people make that mistake that it's not considered a mistake. And that's why some people might notice when you make mistakes is because you are making mistakes that most people do not make. And that is when we are likely to notice. Um, so if you say lay instead of lie, most native speakers are not going to notice because many of them also make that mistake. But if you say, I have telephone new instead of I have a new telephone, that is a very basic kind of grammar mistake that no native speaker would ever make. So we do notice it. Um, so how many natives break grammar rules? I don't think they're breaking the rules. I think that they either don't know how to use something because it's very advanced and they're not a professional author, or it's part of their dialect and it's normal to say it that way. Um, Another possibility is that they're just speaking quickly. Grammar isn't always simple. And every language, when you're speaking quickly, sometimes you start to say something without thinking. And because you haven't thought about it yet, you say the wrong word, you start the wrong way, and you have to fix it a little bit. Or maybe you don't fix it because you don't really care, because it doesn't really matter, because the person still understands you. But yeah, that's it. Basically, no one in the world speaks any language perfectly all the time. But you should try your best to keep learning and keep improving because you don't want to make lots of mistakes, because the more mistakes you have, the more difficult it will probably be for you to communicate clearly and for other people to understand you. But again, don't let that make you feel bad. Just use that to tell yourself, I want to keep fixing my mistakes because when I fix my mistakes, I will be able to communicate better. But making mistakes does not mean I'm doing a bad job. It means that I'm using something new and I'm giving myself opportunities to improve, opportunities to learn. So don't feel bad when you make mistakes. Making mistakes is how you improve. You need to make mistakes to improve, but you want to fix those mistakes after you make them. But yeah, that is it for today. Please remember, if you found this useful and would like to help support my channel, you do have the option to buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. The link is in the description below this video. Also, if you would like to practice speaking with me on italki, again, I do now offer private speaking sessions. 1 hour is 55 minutes, 30 minutes is 35 minutes. The link is in the description below that says practice speaking with me on italki. And finally, if you have not yet got my ebooks and might be interested, the link to those is in the description below as well. One more thing, don't forget, we will not have a live lesson on the 8th, the 10th, or the 15th, but we will continue on, I think it's the 17th. Anything else? Yeah, finally, there's also a link to join my email newsletter. I will probably send out an email probably today or tomorrow with some of these updates. And you can find this link in the description below the video with all of the other links. Yeah, thank you all very much for joining today. Thank you for your questions and your participation. I know several people asked a lot of questions, but I didn't want to keep choosing the same people. So please understand if I did skip some of your questions. And some people also had questions that I didn't fully understand, so I didn't choose those ones. And some people had questions that I just didn't feel like I would give a very good answer right now, and that is why I skipped those ones. So yeah, thank you all very much for your participation, and I will see you on, I think it is the 17th. Goodbye.